There are few musical pieces throughout history, if any, that are more popular amongst students and young pianists than Debussy's Clair de Lune. It's one of the most famous musical pieces in history, and it begs the question, why is it such a prolific piano piece? What makes it so desirable for students to learn? And how did Debussy perfectly toe the line between beautiful complexity and accessibility? Let's check it out. Clair de Lune is one of the ultimate examples of a piece that sounds super complex, and it definitely has its difficulties, but it's not actually that hard. Now that sounds incredibly simplistic to say, and it is, because there are many things that are very difficult about it. But when we compare it to some pieces that feel genuinely impossible, we immediately see why Clair de Lune is so popular among younger and student pianists. That is a snippet from Ravel's Jadot, which I think is a drastically more complicated piece, to the point where I've always dreamed of learning that piece, and I've just never had the time to sit down and actually figure it out because of its insane level of complexity and difficulty. Clair de Lune is so brilliant because it has segments that kind of sound like that, but they aren't nearly as difficult to execute. We establish this hauntingly beautiful melody in the beginning, and then we give this just, oh, whew. That is just absolutely gorgeous, right? And as it continues, we're utilizing this thing of each hand is playing a set of thirds, but the way that they're combining this two-handed thirds thing, I mean, it's a great way to play complex, beautiful harmony in a way that's easy to execute, but deceivingly difficult, right? And here's why. As we continue in this piece, we have these beautiful sections as they develop. The whole thing kind of moves downward. Ugh. So far, we have not really left this two-handed thirds kind of concept, but then we expand, and we go to basically repeat that initial melody again. Woohoo! Now, the deceivingly complex part of this is how we play chords with both of our hands in a way that allows them to ring so that the melody sings and the harmony sings and they don't step on each other. Here's what I mean. If I play that chord right there, it would be very easy for my fingers to accidentally play notes in a little bit of like a flam on a drum, for example. Just to not play them all at the same time. Now, when that happens, some interesting things happen with the actual physics of music. As we know, all notes are frequency waves, and they all have a series of harmonic overtones. Now, those tend to ring. If we play a single note and we hold it out, hear how that note is kind of feels to be floating around a little bit. If you just let it ring, you can hear it kind of moving around. Now that happens with all the notes that we play, and when we get our notes not in sync, that's all kind of there. It's happening at different times because we're starting that wave at different times, versus when we really nail playing our notes together, it lets the chord sing in a way that it just doesn't if you don't get that right. So it's not necessarily hard, but it's one of those things that can be deceivingly difficult. Because as we know, controlling all the individual fingers and getting them to do exactly what we want them to do when we want them to do it, that can be difficult. So when we think about it through that lens, we all of a sudden realize that this beautiful section, the second time through our melody, has this added level of complexity. Now that brings us to this section, which I think is a lot of people's, probably one of everyone's favorite sections, because we have this gorgeous E flat down to the bass. And on most pianos, this is a really rich tone. It's just so beautiful. And then we get this shape. Now this shape, I think, is uniquely cool, especially when you are a pianist learning to tackle this for the first time, because not only is that a beautiful chord, but it's pretty accessible. We have an octave in the right hand, simply with one note added to it, this B flat, and in the left hand, we have just that simple cluster voicing right there. Now, we have 3 Fs, and the F happens to be our melody here. Here's what's really, really cool about this and why it's a little harder than it seems on the surface. We want the melody of this to sing. And in order to do that, we can't just... Right? That's technically correct. The notes are correct. But there's a layer missing from that. And this is something that when I learned it, I was like, oh, wow, that's actually harder than it sounds like. And basically what it is the melody is up here, right? And it's repeated through here, and so that helps. But we want that melody to really sing, which means your hand has to be weighted differently depending on what you're trying to sing out with, what note you're trying to highlight. Now that was okay. It wasn't too bad, but you can hear when I play it the right way, you can hear that melody a little more prominently than the other notes of the chord, and that can be tough to do. So this whole section has that sort of deceiving difficulty to it while being very accessible because the hand shapes, oof, right? And that was okay, but I'm getting a lot of that note really singing out, more than it probably should be. But so far, we're playing chords that are not too difficult for the hands, and they're easy to find, they're easy to remember, right? And then even once we get into... I remember this was kind of a difficult section to tackle when I was younger, because it's not the difficulty of playing, like this shape, that's not that hard to do, right? But it's the difficulty of remembering where everything is going as we develop this by this. This is just such a beautiful rising intensity. What a resolution. This whole section has just been building up the intensity, and then it resolves on this, which we immediately pull back. That chord is unreal. So we have D flat, and then that chord. What is that chord? Let's look at that. I can't stop playing it. It's so incredible. We could look at the individual notes included and say, well, we're going from a D flat major to a D flat minor 6 chord. That might be right. And then an A flat sus and an A flat. That would be a totally accurate way to say, yep, that's kind of what's going on harmonically there. You can see already we've gotten through the first introductory portion of Clair de Lune, and there are so many things about it that make it deceivingly difficult while still being reasonably accessible. We haven't introduced anything that is incredibly difficult for the hands to execute, or that you need to do all these insane stretches or anything to reach. No, it's all fairly consonant harmony. It's not super crazy difficult harmony, but it is just incredibly beautiful, and it has its own levels of complexity within the execution that are required to really make this piece sing, and that's where the difficulty comes from. And I think it's one of the reasons why this piece is so popular to learn. It requires a high level of musicality and emotion, and some tricky things about the actual execution of the notes, but it's a piece that is at a level that is fairly accessible when you're learning to play the piano. Now, we get into the more technical side, of course, with the introduction of this theme. Now, up until that point right there, I want you to notice we're still keeping this actually quite easy. This creates the illusion of some of that Jadot type of sound without it being nearly as difficult as some of those sections. It's just, I can show anybody how to play that in like less than 5 minutes. And then we just do it again here. And then we have still pretty similar, right? When we put that up to speed, we get this beautiful, flourishing, flowing sound. And even once we reach that point, that is perhaps the most difficult thing we've encountered thus far. But even considering that fact, we have two chords. We have a D flat major arpeggio, and then we have an E flat major arpeggio. And so we're introducing the difficulty of reaching that with the left hand, which when we're learning, that can be incredibly hard, and it can take some time to really nail that down. But it is not based on some crazy complex harmonic thing, and it's also not delivered at a speed or reach that is impossible. It is difficult, but accessible. Something about the harmony there makes it feel like we're just stirring. There's something developing, but we don't quite know what yet. And then we get this resolution, and then this. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo, that melody, unbelievable. Ooh. And this is where it starts to get a little tough. This section is legitimately difficult because it's supposed to speed up here as well. And this was one of the things that I always had trouble getting this perfectly clean. That right there, deceivingly difficult. It's still accessible because we can learn it and it's not too much of a reach. But it requires some interesting kind of shapes, like we're sort of playing 5/4 in our left hand. And that can be tough, depending on how you voice it. Right? And then the whole while we're going. And that resolves into this insanely beautiful melody. Oh. And then we get this gorgeous flowing thing where it looks like we have this really complicated run in the left hand, but watch. All that was it's an F sharp minor 7 chord. And then we expand upon that for this additional section that also looks very complicated, but it's just more 5/1s in octaves split up, right? More things that are tricky to learn how to execute initially, but fundamentally the way they're built, they're not that complex, and that allows us to learn it a little more quickly than some things that are legitimately more harmonically difficult. When we speed that up to tempo, it sounds a lot more complex than it actually is. We can take it out from there through a series of beautiful resolutions. this piece just has so many components to it that make it one of the greatest pieces for pianists to learn once they've achieved a reasonable level of proficiency, but maybe are still at that intermediate stage. It's a beautiful opportunity to learn some things from the Impressionist era without them being inaccessible like many other pieces can be. And I think its complexity, yet its accessibility, is one of the reasons why Clair de Lune is perhaps the ultimate piano piece. It's one of the most popular of all time. But I want to know in the comments below if this is one of the pieces that you know or that you have worked on in the past, or if it's one that you're working on now or even aspiring to work on in the future.